I love this robotic voice. All right, so why this meeting? So I tried to give a quick gist of what it was in the event invite, but yeah, basically I've been meeting on and off with Holly since we started the category maturity scorecards process, and that was a very good moments for us to talk about differences in between issues and merge requests, and what we're doing with issues, what we're doing with merge requests. And there's a lot of overlaps, and I feel that we have neglected those overlaps for too long. And before, which was not too long ago, the same people that were working on issues and merge requests, yeah, it was the same team. It was not different teams and different designers. And so it seems like they were kind of living in these silos of the stage groups, which are very comfy and cozy, and it's nice that we know everyone, but then we have these overlaps, and when we make changes in one place, it affects all of the other places, because the greatest strength of GitLab is that, and that's why customers buy licenses and users register on gitlab.com, is because we have this whole DevOps lifecycle where the features and the stage groups are seamless. They don't see anything like that. We're the only ones that are aware of the divisions in the product, but users are not aware of that, and that's great. So we have to keep it that way. So yeah, I started talking with her about these things, and then I wondered, like, we need to expand this a little bit, because what we considered an issuable today, or for a long time, was just, again, issues and merge requests. We then added epics, which is Alexis turf, if I'm not mistaken. And more recently, we've expanded into other areas which could be considered issuables, or that in a large way adopt the paradigms and the approaches of issues, using our boring solutions approach of just like taking what's already working, which is also good from a UX standpoint. So I'm referring to requirements, Nick, right? I think, is it a correct assessment, what I'm saying?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, good. And then Amelia with incidents, right? Okay, yeah, I started working on incidents when it was just the vision. And I was very afraid that we would just implement whatever I had in the mockups for the marketing deck. Yeah, good to see that we have a designer involved and actively trying to figure out what the real problems are. But yeah, so all of these different objects in the system, merge requests, issues, epics, requirements, incidents, all now share a common experience in one small part or in a large part. And so I felt like we needed to start sharing more about what we're doing, and what are the overlaps, where can we be more consistent, and also, and I think first and foremost, and that's what I wanted to present a little bit today, is what are the struggles that we have today with collaborating across all of these different objects, these different issuables. And so one epic that Holly has been working on is, I can share my screen, is the extensible issues, which was started by Gabe, the product manager for project management, if I'm not mistaken, and from Plan. And so, yeah, he thought about a lot of these different objects and how they relate to each other, and what we could do to finally address the needs that a lot of users have and that customers request. Oh, we need issues to be more extensible. We want to customize the fields. We want to have types of issues. And again, this epic is mostly focused on issues, but through thinking about all of this, and you can already see like some of the thought process here with the different areas and being able to drag and drop apps, if you want to call it that way, which I'm looking at this and I can immediately relate this small and rough mockup to, in a way, what, at least to my knowledge, what happened with incidents management, where we started adding more little peek holes and gateways to other areas in the product, and in a more intelligent or smart way that we didn't do so much in issues with the Zoom links, right? And Slack and all of those things. So yeah, so Gabe is thinking about all of this, and it's all very interesting, and it's kind of addressing those user needs and customer requests. But in the back of my mind, what I'm thinking is that we need a design framework to navigate these waters and have a solid foundation that every designer can work on. And that's something that I'm working on now. And so what I'm doing right now is a very dumb documentation of, and not smart at all documentation of what's already there, both the good things and the bad things. And that is by these two issues, documenting the Issuables existing semantic grid. And so the semantic grid is basically the layout of the page, of the main page of the object, but giving meaning to those different areas. That's why it's called semantic. And then also documenting what already exists today in terms of the conceptual model of the objects, so the actions, the attributes, and the objects themselves, and how they relate to one another. And that is completely separate from the representation, how that model is represented. And so again, right now for this interaction design framework, I'm just setting down the documentation and what's already there. And then my idea is we would work together to clearly define what the next steps would be in this framework, and understand what we're struggling with from the documentation standpoint, what are the gaps in the knowledge, so that we can have a solid framework to move forward and make the best decisions together. And just, I mean, I'll give you the mic in just a second, but let me just quickly show you what I meant with the semantic grid. So I don't know if you've already saw the async design critique for merge requests. I started this exercise separate from that, and then we copied over some of the parts to that async design exercise, design critique exercise. And so as you can see here, the semantic grid is basically highlighting where are the navigation and location blocks, the primary attributes of the object, secondary attributes, the object relationships, where we're embedding information or actions of another object into the main container object. Where are we listing or do we have a summary of the changes to objects' attributes? What are the actions? Where are the non-embedded actions and also the non-transactional actions? And all of these have a description. I won't explain them in detail, but you can see more or less what I'm aiming for with kind of categorizing all of these blocks of information and actions. And you can quickly see the nice groups and the not so nice groups and the inconsistencies. In this case, this is the merge request page. And you can see that the actions are all over the place. And some of them have a good reason for it, and others just don't have any good reason and just confuse users. And this is a source of frustration by many of them. And this exercise just makes that visible. And then we also did a smaller exercise, which was to highlight, still on the same page, the merge request page, where are the goal-related information and actions. And again, you can see like the actions are all over the place, and the information that drives and that helps propel the user forward to completing the main goal, which is to get the merge request merged, where that information is, and it's all over the place. Yeah, and I've started to do the same with issues and epics. I haven't gone to incidents and requirements yet, because to be honest, I'm not very familiar with how it is today. But what I'm thinking right now is then, of course, for issues and epics, to ping Holly and Alexis to help me out with this and see if I'm thinking correctly. And then in a very iterative and boring way, just link to this Figma file from Pajamas. And from then on, we will start building and adding on top of this with more knowledge. And finally, what I'm thinking about in terms of conceptual model, just to, so that you're all aware, I started with merge requests, but it was too complex. So I went back to epics, and this is just a quick example of, again, I'm just looking at the object in a dumb way. So it's not looking at how it's visualized or anything like that. It's as if we were starting from scratch GitLab, and we're describing and listing out what are the attributes of, whoops, I don't know what I did here. Uh-oh, okay. Let me, I hope I didn't screw up the file. Let me open this up in the Figma desktop app. Okay, there you go. It's not ruined. So you can see like the IIID, the author, the created date, time, all of these different attributes, then the actions that you can make, and also the related objects and components. So like, for example, epics can have top level comments that can then have also reply comments, and then can have threads. And this highlights, for example, one of the inconsistencies that we have today in the product with the way that people write comments. And so you can see that a top level comment is only turned into a thread when they have replies, right? That's how we, in terms of the concept, that's how we treat it. A top level comment is not a thread on its own unless it has replies. And the difference in these things here, it's basically this very bad design that we have today of making people choose between commenting or starting a thread, right? And these two actions, creating two separate kinds of objects, is exactly what we're visualizing here. So I think in a way this can help us make things better just by looking at it from a purely conceptual standpoint. Yeah, I'll share all of these materials with you in case you're interested, but this was just a very long intro, and I'd like to hear your thoughts as well, and also what you've been struggling with, and if you think it's a good idea that we get together in this format or asynchronously to work better together.
I see Nick nodding. What were you thinking, Nick?
No, yeah, I think this is great just because requirements, although like we have a vision of them being an issuable, they are not currently actually an issuable yet. But based off of some research that we did just about a month and a half, 2 months ago, many of the things users were looking for are things that are currently available within issuables. So obviously it makes sense for us to transfer those into an issuable, but we were looking to kind of piggyback on a lot of the work that's being done by incidents and these extensible issues. And so I would love to be a part of, building this out and kind of better understanding which ways we can improve the issuables model as we do that.
Yeah, I also appreciate it. I hadn't had a chance to look through the Figma file that you had created, Pedro. And I think as we were kind of trying to put together the design for incidents, there were a lot of small questions like, should we combine all these buttons into a single button? And at that point, because we had to move forward, we were like, we don't have any research and we don't actually have enough information to make this change yet, but we would like to make this change in the future. So I feel like there were a lot of these things that we needed to do for the first iteration that we know that are not right, but we didn't have enough information to change the existing design. But if we had more of a vision that this is where all the buttons are going to be for all of these you know, extensible issues or issuables, whatever we decide to call them, then it just makes that easier. And if that's, you know, researched and it's going to be consistent across everything, that's going to make it just 1,000 times easier. And we're not going to end up, I just have like a horror vision of like all the different issuables will all have buttons in different places because we didn't, it's hard to, we're all going to have different buttons that we need. And we're all going to be making different decisions. And if it's not documented, you know, it will lead to inconsistency. So I'm glad that this is happening, and I'm happy to help work on the incidents piece of it and contribute what, you know, the things that I've run into as I've been working on that. And yeah, I'm glad this is happening. I think we'll make it 1,000 times easier for everybody who comes after us. So, like, it sounds like they're going to make an issuable or extensible issue type for feature flags and for run books shortly. So more are coming. So the more I guess we can get ahead of this, the better.
Yeah, we're also looking to do an issuable type for quality management as well, where we're going to have a separate issue type for test cases. So like not only does it apply to requirements management, but it also comes into play with quality management as well.
Yep, this is great, Pedro. Thank you. I know I saw the async feedback you did, and I was like, oh, I really want to do this for issues. So I'm glad you've already started that, and epics as well. So that'll be helpful. And even thinking about like some of the research we've been doing on metadata, right? Like the really nitty gritty things and all the feedback we're getting around things being kind of like too cluttered. I think this will help focus in on, cool, what are the main jobs of each of these issuables, right? Like, because there's probably, it spans all of the issuables, focusing on that and really allowing the user to focus on what's important, maybe getting rid of some of the quote unquote clutter. I think that'd be great. So yeah, like however I can help, async or synchronously, I am happy to help out.
Yeah, this is great to hear. Yeah, this is again like more validation that I'm not the only one. Me and Holly like struggling with all of these questions, and yeah, and like two very direct things that we've all noticed or probably noticed with issues and merge requests, which are probably the most used issuables, is like issues now have a sticky title bar, right? Merge requests don't. And merge requests have the sticky tabs, and issues, you had the tabs before with design, now it's different, but epics don't have the sticky tabs, right?
Yeah, another example would be the sorting comments, right? That Nick worked on, that was great, and then we didn't adopt it for epics. Everyone's like, where's that?
Oh, I didn't it didn't exist in epics. Okay. Yeah, I think in a way, I think it's fine if we implement things at different rates and like first do it in issues and then doing a merge. I think that's fine if there's a rationale behind it and there's a plan. But for these things, I don't know, but I don't know if there was a plan. So I, at least the one I can speak for, which was the merge request tabs, which I was involved. I really didn't think about issues and epics, and that was probably one of my fault. But if we had some kind of documentation to reinforce what was already there, if we had these kinds of conversations more often, I think that would probably come up immediately, right? And that's what I'm trying to prevent. Yeah, I'm really glad to hear all of the positive feedback from you. So in terms of what I showed you, the interaction design framework, I don't have a specific to do for you right now. I will probably ping you on things that I'm have questions or that I would like you to take a look at. So I don't want to take your time and your capacity to go through all of that because it's a lot. So I'll ping you in due time. I'm just now, I'm wondering what you all are working on that could overlap, which questions you have Yeah, so it's time for you to speak up.
I'm actually working on something, a sorting of the comments thing, and I didn't realize that you had worked on that originally, Nick. So I'll ping you on the issue. Yeah, I feel like there are like 1,000 little decisions that we're making every day, and I'm never really sure who to reach out to. So this meeting has already been super helpful because I know who I actually reach out to ask my question now.
No, that's like a perfect example. Like Nick did a great job with that, but because we're not probably like, you know, it goes higher than design at some points, right? And to your point, Pedro, we're getting siloed. That was something I was a little bit worried about, like even at a group level, right? And you saw it get siloed from a stage level, right? When I came in, we just started with stages. So yeah, that's another thing that's really great about this. Thanks for thinking about that, Pedro. For me, I'm kind of shifted focus to boards. So I don't know if we can include boards in Issuables somehow. I don't know if we can think even at that level, because I've been thinking really when I work on like roadmaps. So I've been looking at roadmaps, epics, boards, kind of shifting between the three. And really they're all different views of the same information. So I'm even wanting to think about it at that level. So, you know, how do filters persist across all these different views? How do my preferences persist across these views? So at some point, if we could get even to that level, that would be great. But other than that,
sure. I think that's very, very important, right? Because the lists and even like what we were just talking about, something as small as the sorting, how does that persist across projects, across groups, across instances of an object? All of those things are not properly documented, and we should document it somehow. Yeah.
But starting with Issuables, I think is great. Like we could start somewhere. But yeah, anywhere I could help. I would say the most relevant is epics. So anything you need support with there, or if you want me to take it, however you want to work on that, happy to help there. Because yeah, it's an issue that's not quite as mature as an issue, and at some point we want to add in things like initiatives or themes, which is like another higher level than epics. So it's as it matures, it's going to get a little bit more complicated. So if you can start sorting it out now, it's probably a good thing.
I think to be honest, I think I disagree. I think epics can actually be more powerful than issues. Maybe the most powerful of all is merge requests, which right now that power translates to very complex and confusing. But epics is very powerful. You can do all of that different nesting, and the ability you have to view the roadmap in the tree, that's unparalleled. And you don't have that in issues. Issues are kind of, I mean, Holly's not here, but they're more just of a discussion, right? There's not a lot that happens there compared to epics. But yeah,
I should have said mature, not powerful, I guess.
Yes, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, with the time we have left, actually, Alexis, I would like for you to talk a little bit about the research that you are either doing right now or planning to do about the lists. Yeah, and if there's anything that we can do to help you, or if you're thinking of involving us at a certain point. Yeah.
So I'm checking with Anjay tomorrow about that. So we just did all the interviews. I need to go through Dovetail and synthesize everything. But the first initial phase was portfolio management. So that would be the epic list, epics, and a bit of the roadmap as well. So next phase is going to be more of the issue tracking and milestone work. And then the next phase, we'll be getting into like MRs, which of course, Pedro, I think any help you want to give there, I'll just involve you as much as I can. So maybe I can link you guys to the Dovetail research once it's synthesized. Does that sound reasonable or good?
Yeah. Also, I would say that particularly for merge requests, I would be very interested in helping out with the interviews, if you'd like, or if you think it would be better just to have one person. I'm also okay with that. wondering about your workload. So
no, you're more than welcome to help out, of course. I think it'll probably, you know how recruiting goes, it won't be any time within the next milestone, probably. It might be 13, 4 or 5.
all right, yeah.
Probably 5.
Yeah, because one of the things that I was, yeah, I mean, just coming back to what you were saying, you'll publish the findings and ping us there, and maybe from there, like Nick, Amelia, myself, you, and Holly, we can then understand and see how the findings impact our own work and what we've done with requirements, incidents, and so on. I'm curious if, just very quickly, because I created this issue more or less at the same time that you created that research, which is, I didn't fill it out with anything, but the idea is to research what is the user's perception of the conceptual model, and that is basically like all the attributes and the actions that we have in the Issuables. And I feel like that is very related to what you were doing, in so much that Mike linked to your research, which talks, I think, more about the metadata on lists and not so much in when you're in the object itself. How do you think this issue that I created is worthwhile? Do you think there's a lot that we can already learn from your research and that could potentially make this irrelevant? Or
So what is the main goal of the research you're starting?
Is to understand how users group and prioritize information and actions without looking at the UI.
So I think it could still be helpful. I think we're kind of just scratching the surface of that with the metadata research, right? It's more pointed, like, cool, look at this list, like rank what's important to you, why. So like a higher level understanding, but the model of literally what is a list, I don't know if we're getting to that level, which I think is what you are trying to investigate, if I'm correct. So maybe the metadata research is a good starting point, but I think that the overall conceptual model research you're doing, I think that could be useful as well. Ours is a little more tactical, and it started very tactically, like how do I organize this information? What is the hierarchy? Stuff like that. So it's a little less high level, and I think another round even, right? Like we could think of it as expanding on it at a higher level with the more conceptual research. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Cool. Yeah, that's very helpful. Yeah, I don't have any timeline to work on this. I already have a lot on my plate, so I'm kind of doing this on the side. You know, as with everything that is proactive at GitLab, you kind of do it on the side of the milestone work. So yeah. Cool. Any last thoughts? We're already over time, so. All right. I hope you're all thinking about something. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, this was great. I'm glad that this would be good for you. I'll ping you on whatever I think would be helpful for you, or to get some of your feedback. Do you think it would make sense to meet again? I'll be off the next 2 weeks, but I think some of you will be here. Do you think it would make sense to meet every other week, or not meet at all and just start async?
Maybe we start async in the Figma. Is there anything we could action upon within the next 2 weeks, or when you're gone, Pedro? Or should we kind of catch up when you get back? What do you think?
I'll leave you some things to provide feedback async while I'm off, so that when I come back, I already have some info from you. Yeah, but I'm just wondering, like this meeting or this sharing knowledge about what we're doing. yeah, I'm just wondering what would be the best medium. We don't have to decide now, however. We can go about our day and think about it and then talk later.
What if we look at what you're sending us within the next 2 weeks, and then we meet when you get back, and then we think about how we want to meet? Does that make sense?
That makes sense. That makes sense. Cool. It was great seeing you all. Thank you so much for joining at last minute. Nick, enjoy your time off, I believe. And I'll see you when I see you.
Thanks for setting us up, Pedro.
Yeah, thank you.
Have a great time off, y'all, and see you soon.
See you. Bye.
Bye.
Yeah.